I guess Father Mondo's soup kitchen is underneath this giant tire. There it is.
Yep, totally.
Relentless will crush you under its foot.
There is one major change to the blueprint you're seeing. Actually, you know what? Never mind. There's not. I'm not going to give that to you right off the bat. I'll let this come out organically.
I suddenly get a suspicion that this blueprint is not accurate.
Well, and Terrence told you as much. Like, this blueprint is several hundred years old. It's ancient. And
I suddenly feel as though that's been confirmed.
there are some details, myths and legends and things about the Relentless floating around, and he's not sure which of them have basis in reality, which of them don't. But they have confirmed that it is a real tank. It's fought on both sides of the Blood War. And they have confirmed that enough power resides in the Relentless that it has worshippers that get spells. And that's why it is of interest to the Aethar.
Riot points over here and says, what the hell is a melder?
Make
That's a good question.
Intelligence history check. Make it at disadvantage.
Okay.
I'll let Riot make this roll, but nobody else.
Oh, it rolled over for the 16th one.
Okay.
So that's a 3.
Fuck it up, Riot.
Yeah.
The only information Terrence has on the Mailder is it is some sort of fiend, and it was being held captive on this vessel at the time when these blueprints were acquired.
Okay.
And that's literally it.
Just a fiend. Okay.
His speculation is that because no information about this thing exists, that the Yugoloths, or at least the crew of the Relentless, have to work very diligently to wash all knowledge of it away.
Thrown down here, huh?
You said fiend, right?
He said fiend, yes.
Wait,
Okay.
am I reading this right? No. Okay. Stare to the deck above castle. Okay. So the throne is not just hanging out like right here.
No, it's down
It's
inside of this
inside.
structure.
Gotcha.
This is the only part of the map, this top corner, that is
Uh-huh.
to scale on this grid. Each square is 10 feet. These two, like the overview and then the cross section, are considerably
Right.
larger.
Yeah. Okay.
So let's just go over what we're actually looking at here. This thing is easily several hundred feet long, a couple hundred feet tall. The sides here, at the bottom, over here, are enormous gangplanks that can be dropped, that armies can march back up into. The blueprint does not encompass any of the interior levels of the Relentless.
Except for this little bit up here.
That's just this castle area over here. And the reason that this is laid out like this is when the Relentless has, say, diplomats or emissaries or potential employers come to visit, this is the area where they are brought in.
Gotcha.
This area here that we can see. That's
Yes.
on the blueprint. Okay.
And he suspects, but he has not confirmed, that that was the purpose of this blueprint. Like, this is something that the people on the Relentless would hand out to prospective employers. Like, here's what we have to offer if you were to hire our tank for your war.
Any idea who does or at least used to sit on that throne?
And he names off the name of some brilliant Yugoloth commander who was in charge of the Relentless several hundred years ago, but has since disappeared into the mists of obscurity.
Okay.
Any idea where what plane it's on now?
The whole point of the Relentless is to be mobile, and it wanders pretty much all the lower planes. Anywhere the Blood War is fought, the Relentless can roll up ons. Obviously, it's too big to fit through most gates, but the lower planes tend to be more geographical than the upper planes do. So it's entirely possible for the Relentless over the course of months or years to lumber across Beator into Gehenna, into Carcerai, etc.
Now, when you say lumber, is this thing at least slow moving?
It's definitely not quick. Terrence says that an average person could outrun it. This thing, I mean, you're talking about maybe a mile or two an hour.
Okay.
And the reason for that is it's just incredibly gargantuan, and he thinks that the giant wheels on the side of the Relentless are slave-powered. There are actually people in there working machines to turn these enormous rollers. They're not actually wheels, like there's not 4 of them. They're actually two giant rollers that the thing is mounted on. So it can literally just squish an army as it rolls over them.
I love the Relentless.
And
Yeah, it's really crazy.
you can't really outrun it anyway because I noticed the air defense tower.
So, talking about the air defense, there are towers all along the ship. There are 8 along the sides that have heavy catapults. There's also a much higher air defense tower manned with giant ballistas, as well as...
That's this thing? Looks
Air
like?
defense tower is here in the center.
No, I'm looking on the side.
Yes, that would be this here.
Okay.
And you've got some more forward batteries here. And of course, all of these are mobile and can be moved around the castle as required. This is in addition to any flying fiends that man the Relentless that can take the battle to the sky.
So wait, if this thing has been capturing and holding slaves in it, what if we just drop liberation on it and he cuts entirely through it with his hand axe?
And Terrence requires some explanation as to what you mean. He does not know the value of Liberation's hand axe.
Liberation places his hand axe on the table and describes what it's capable of, and describes what he did on the Illithid ship to just smash open the locks that were holding those prisoners in the hold.
And how many prisoners were you able to rescue in this way?
Why did you ask me that question?
Because that's what Terrence would ask in this case. He's intrigued.
We rescued one, but that was only because of a time crunch.
They were mostly dead.
Just the butt, huh? You didn't rescue the rest of them? He asks if you've tested, no doubt, the might of your axe. It's obviously, if what you say is true, it's a very powerful and useful piece of equipment. But have you tested it within the realm of one of the powers?
That I have not.
And therein lies the real danger of attacking the Relentless.
Yeah.
If it has the powers that the Aether has confirmed it has, it would be entirely impossible to know how any sort of magic will function within its sphere of influence.
Might not function at all, any of it, huh?
In general, inside of the realm of a power, magic only functions in the way that that power wants it to, for the people who that power deems worthy.
Okay, so that was going to be right. The next question was, it's a power who has a domain able to say no divination spells except for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
That's actually the entire point of power keys. So these powers can give their clerics and proxies power keys to use magic in that regard.
I forgot all about power keys.
If the Relentless is what the Aether confirms it is, and he keeps using that phrase, it sounds to you like he's confirmed it as true, but it's still very difficult to believe. But it's one of 2 known moving powers in the multiverse that the Aethar have categorized so far.
What's the other one?
The other one, and this is absolutely true, is a power called Still Song. And the only thing anybody knows about it is that its domain just kind of moves around the upper plains area of the Outlands. And it doesn't seem to have any worshippers or clerics or anything. But the only noticeable change inside of the domain, which moves around, is that you hear pleasant music.
How many of your guys have gone after that? I have to know. Is that common?
Terrence smiles and says, typically in cases like this, curious Aethar will take resources and commission sensates who are more than willing to make the journey to the Outlands very, very cheaply to witness the spectacle of Still Song.
But, like, no one's tried to kill it? Because I find that hard to believe.
Riot, do you find it offensive that Mahogany just implied you can kill music?
Yeah, a little bit.
That's literally what the power's name means.
So, the degree to which the Relentless has magical protection, Terrence doesn't know for sure. What he does know is that inside of this castle area here, there are areas for visitors, there are armories, there are barracks, there are also holding cells along this hallway, back hallway here, for particularly important prisoners. His guess is that some or all of this area is enclosed in a sort of anti-magic field.
So if that's the case, then my hand axe wouldn't work there anyway.
If that's the case, we have a lot more problems than your hand axe.
I know.
Sorry, where was the anti-magic field?
Either some or all of this castle area.
Of the castle area, okay. Oh, boy.
Well, that sucks, because we're magic as shit.
I had a friend, I have a friend who told me that if you're dealing with Yugoloths, that best not to do it when they've got the upper hand, and it seems like if we go here, they'd have the upper hand the whole way going. So we might need to come up with a different way of approaching this.
I agree. This doesn't seem like a fight we could win.
No.
But is our life worth living if we don't attack the giant moving tank?
Yeah.
I feel like nobody answers that.
Yeah, no one answers that one. Right, that sounds exactly to me like what happens.
For the purposes of your mission, Terrence is willing to make available any resources that the Aethar can muster, provided they don't go against his faction goals in Sigil and abroad, and provided he deems them reasonable.
Well, the anti-magic field, do you think that's a factor of their power's influence? That's kind of your wheelhouse, right?
He says that any wizard of sufficient power can create anti-magic fields, and over enough time can expand those fields to encompass any structure they need. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, well, I was going to say, so if it's not a factor of their power's influence, then that means they can't cast spells either.
And this is the sticking point with this anti-magic field, because on one hand, you're absolutely right. The Yugoloths would have made a place where they can't cast spells either, which would put them at a disadvantage in case the castle were breached by, say, a horde of Tanari. Terrence suspects, Yugoloths being the tricksy bastards that they are,
Right.
that there's a loophole. That there's some way for Yugoloth spellcasters to exploit this field and be functional while only hindering enemy casters.
Remember
I wonder
also
if we
that
can
there's...
get you into that loophole, right?
Yeah, well, there's also plenty of ways Yugoloths can mess us up without needing magic at all.
Yeah, just having shock troops. I mean, your typical demon isn't much of a, or daemon isn't much of a threat. You know, one-on-one, but
it's all of his things that he has under his control.
Terrence, what kind of people worshipped the Relentless?
He says the kind of people that you would expect.
I honestly don't know what to expect.
Very... Imagine a Venn diagram of mercenary attitude, incredible violence, and putrid evil. These are the priests that would be given powers by the Relentless.
So we look for Doomguard then?
Well, they're not all evil.
Too bad we can't just...
Didn't the leader of it give you a damn salt sword?
Yeah, it was very useful. I mean, I didn't use it, but it would have been useful if I had.
And Terrence smiles a little, and he asks, just how many factals are you baking pies with?
Don't ask. Don't ask.
Does anybody have a checklist?
They're all very delicious pies.
I think it's everyone. Like, what factors do we not have a relationship with?
Right, Crones, and says, I wish that I had eaten only pies with Factal.
Too bad we can't just flip this over. Because then how powerful would it actually be?
It's just wheels just spinning in the air.
Yeah, like it can't use its towers or its anti-defense tower or anything like that because it's all on the ground.
It's just a sad
Like,
turtle.
yeah. We'd flip it all over and everyone inside, like, I don't know.
Flipping things over tends to solve a lot of our problems.
I'm thinking that they probably have some kind of countermeasures to prevent that kind of thing. That kind of.
I don't know, because who would have thought of it? Who's sitting there thinking, oh, but what if they flip our tank over?
I am really upset that I can't argue with you about this.
I'm suddenly remembering they put in a cheeky message if you actually manage to flip open the giant tank in Halo. Because usually you just push a button to flip the vehicle back over, but if you flip the giant tank, the button prompt says, push beta. Wait, how the hell did you do that? So, what is Kelian's plan for flipping the Relentless?
I don't...
He's more of an ideas guy.
Like, you need something to shoot up from the ground with enough force and power that it could flip this entire battle tank over.
That's a bad plan.
You would need like a catapult that shoots castles.
It would probably be better to change the ground itself if you could evacuate a large amount of ground below one of the wheels.
That's actually not a bad idea.
See, I'm not a magic user. I can't think of things like that.
Well, neither will Livy on that bitch.
Of course,
I mean, the volume of ground you're talking about, and Nath sort of takes the thing, starts kind of eyeballing it, making mental notes on the dimensions. You're looking at multiple high valency earthquakes to even get the potential to do it. You would need a fairly devastating Karate of casters to pull that off.
Well, let's step back for a second. What is our goal here? Like, our overall goal is we're trying to free Eldov. Do we know Eldov is here?
That is also a very good
the only thing we really know about this place is that Mahogany were summoned there.
Oh, you think this is actually the structure you were in?
That's
our working thesis.
Well, no, that's the trail that led us here. I went to the lyre, sang a song about this place. There was there was a Mezoloth who seemed like he knew what I was talking about, so I followed him. I gave him some money, told him to come back and see me if he wanted the rest, and he said, "I don't want your money. You sang about the Relentless, and I want nothing to do with that." So the Relentless, according to that thread, is where I was. inside the Relentless somewhere, there's an Iconoloth who wanted to work with me to overthrow his enemies.
Well, your spellcasting wasn't impeded while you're in the prison, correct?
Not by the nature of the place itself.
Or by an anti-magic field.
When it was impeded, it was only impeded by the commands given to me by this conjuration.
Oh yeah, I was casting magic like constantly.
Yeah.
They're mercenaries, right? Do they work exclusively for the Blood War, Terrence? Is it possible we can talk to someone who isn't a vile fiend to speak with someone who's hired them?
Probably not, because the only types of people who would need this kind of military strength on that kind of scale would be in the Blood War. There's no other conflict in the multiverse where this kind of thing would be appropriate.
Well, failing that, are there any fiends we dislike less than others? And he's looking across the group at this.
I'm not on speaking terms with her anyway.
I don't know. It seems like she gaffed things up pretty spectacularly. She might be willing to...
Nope. Absolutely not.
She and I did a deal that worked out all right. I'm wondering if we shouldn't go to the Relentless as... Just go there. Just talk to them. Go and find out. See if we can have a conversation with this Iconoloth that doesn't involve us being chained up.
I think that sounds like a great way for us to get shackled up in those war machines.
You think so? We're not. If we don't go there as enemies, if we just go there as saying, "Hey, we want to know more about this person, about Eldov," which we don't know that he's there.
If they primarily work in the Blood War, they probably... I would assume that... the problem is the thing is such a good... If what we suspect is true, then it's such a strong place that you potentially could bring someone else there. If they had some place that wasn't potentially anti-magic and divinely powered, they would need neutral ground in order to negotiate with various sides in the Blood War, so we could try and talk to them there. But given the power of this place...
That's what Terrence is saying. If we meet
there?
the neutral ground that he's talking about is right here.
Exactly.
Also, don't forget, they found us. So they
That's also
probably
true.
know that...
They found us, but they didn't kill us. They wanted to hire me, remember? To deal with some enemy of theirs. And I never found out who that enemy is.
And didn't you tell them to piss off?
I told one particular one of them to piss off. But if we meet on different terms, maybe not.
So here's one question that's going to require an answer. The Relentless is mobile, and with sufficient resources, which I think your party has in abundance at this point, tracking it down, in theory at least, should not be difficult. The Relentless, it's not hidden. It's not a secret. They're out there. They're being hired. They want people to know they exist, specifically so they can get hired on either part of the Blood War. The lower planes, therefore, any lower plane stretching from Acheron all the way to Pandemonium is a potential place to find the Relentless. So that's one aspect of this that you'll have in your favor, is you'll get to pick which plane you want to hunt it down on.
Ooh,
Fill up
Pandemonium.
my map of the Outer Planes again.
I think I've got one, actually. If I don't, I really should. I mean...
I went to Google and I typed Planescape Outer Planes. Does anyone want to guess what the first result was?
Oh, was it Bonkman?
It was Bonkman!
Yay!
Oh, we're not supposed to talk about Bonkman shit.
Oh, you can talk about Bonkman. I don't mind.
What?
Yeah, here we go.
Um,
It's not the best
Could
map
we-
of the Outer Planes, but it'll work.
could we just hire them?
Well, what would, like, even speaking theoretically, what would any of us have that would require their services?
Yeah, I don't know what we want to hire them to
Giant
do.
fuck off tank.
That's what I want to go
Well-
there and see if we can talk and find out more about what they wanted from us.
I can think of a few
Because remember,
things.
like, I want to remember also what we know about Eldov, right? He is also in the service, in the slavery, really, of a group of mercenaries who operate of Acheron, I think. And he's got some kind of vehicle of his own. I wonder if there's some kind of vehicle war that they wanted our help with.
That makes a surprising amount of sense.
If the Relentless is on our side in the Eldov mission, I want to find that out first before we go attacking the Relentless.
Fair enough.
So this is a map of the Outlands, but it does have the lower planes enumerated.
Yeah.
So these are your choices, kind of on the bottom of the page here.
From Acheron all the way to, not Limbo, but Pandemonium.
Right. Acheron and Pandemonium are not particularly large Blood War sites. Blood War activity that happens on those planes tends to be more of like the intrigue and espionage sort.
Wait, isn't Acheron just a huge blood war, nothing but?
It's a huge war, but not necessarily a blood war, because that's where all of the
all
goblinoid,
conflict.
all the goblinoid and orc gods are, and they're all fighting amongst themselves. So sometimes, because Beator is right next door, they'll sweep in and make a alliance of convenience just to get a few cadres of shock troops or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But you've got Beator, which is the Beatisu home plane. You've got Gehenna, which is essentially Looney Tunes hell. This is what you think of when you see hell in Looney Tunes. You've got the Grey Waste, which you visited before. That is,
you got to go back there.
You've got Githzerai, which is the prison of the multiverse. You've got the Abyss, which you've also been to before.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got Pandemonium. And these 5 planes from Beator to the Abyss are where most of the Blood War is fought.
I'm thinking either Githzerai or Beator. What do you guys say?
My vote would be for Acheron, but
Yeah, I mean that might work too.
I feel like there's the most neutral ground to be had there.
Yeah, you're probably right.
Okay, Acheron works for me.
I can
Acheron is certainly distracting enough.
get behind Acheron.
Okay, so you're going to try to find a time when the Relentless is located on Acheron?
Wait, let me ask one thing. Let me just back up a second. Was Limbo in the mix?
No, it's not.
No.
That's what I thought. Yeah, then Acheron.
Acheron and Pandemonium.
Yeah, because there's your flip the tank
Yeah.
over.
Yeah, they probably wouldn't go
Well,
there for
yeah,
that
but we can't
specific
flip the
reason.
tank over because then it's just starts walking on the other side.
What?
Does it?
Is it a
No, I don't think
transformer?
I don't think the wheels go all the way through. There's
I think what he's
towers and
saying
stuff in the way.
Is that the towers telescope in and out and act like legs.
Alright, so I gotta update my notes real quick. Let me make a slight alteration to...
Also, yeah, on Limbo they could just reshape it anyway, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is like a 8-legged spider tank thing. If you flipped it over.
That would be even more horrifying.
That's why I'm sure it's true.
That's when we all just leave. We're just like, nah, never mind. All love sucks.
Jump the spider, guys. Why did you jump the spider?
So Riot wants to make contact with the Relentless at a point when it's on Acheron and attempt to approach it in a peaceful manner to find out the rest of the story as to what they wanted to hire her for.
Right.
If at all humanly possible.
And I mean, worst case scenario, we get some more info
Wait,
while we're there.
wait, think carefully before you say worst case scenario. Because it can probably get pretty bad.
Yeah.
There's no point in thinking about that.
How much of this conversation are you having with Terrence, and how much are you having later after you've parted ways with him?
I feel like this is all Terrence stuff.
Yeah,
Okay.
we're not hiding anything from
Because
Terrence.
we really need his resources.
He would definitely pipe up then that when fiends are involved, you are biologically incapable of envisioning the worst case scenario.
Right, so it's pointless to think about it. So let's just keep moving on.
You brought it up.
She's got you there, Mahogany.
What?
You
So
brought
here's
it
the
up.
resources that Terrence is
think I
willing
remember
to help you guys out with. He is not personally willing to go on this mission. The risk is just way too high. He is too important of a person
Yeah.
to go. He's certain there would be other members of the Aethar who you might be able to hire on to go with you. He is personally willing to create spell scrolls. And remember, he's a very high-level cleric. He has access to a lot of different scrolls within reason. Like, hey, I want 99 Raised Dead scrolls. Probably beyond his resources to make in a short amount of time.
How about Jink? What if it turns out we need cash to even get an audience with Relentless?
Provided you give him a solid plan for how you're going to approach the Relentless, what your diplomatic strategy is going to be, he's willing to front 10,000 gold for purposes of bribes or show of wealth.
Mahogany starts laughing at diplomatic strategy.
Okay. All right, we'll keep that in mind.
So, just so I'm clear, is the plan to make it look like you're going to hire the tank for a particular reason?
No, I don't think so, because that would get us kicked off as soon as they've discovered very shortly that we weren't there to hire them.
Okay.
I think it would just be to let it be known that we have an interest in common that we would like to discuss with the Relentless.
Which is technically true.
Which is technically true.
Technically true is our middle name.
We're just planestalkers.
Nath,
Mm-hmm.
what effort do you put forth as far as learning about the magical effects of Acheron, which is a plane that none of you have been to, I don't think.
Let's see. I'll ask Mahogany because Mahogany seems to be the one who knows the most about the various factions. Hey, Mahogany, is there a faction you think I should go to ask if I'm going to research magic on Acheron?
Brick, is there a faction that has their home base on Acheron?
I don't believe so, because
Yeah, I didn't think so
Acheron is a
either.
place of vast conflict.
I say maybe the Doomguard?
The closest would be the Mercy Killers.
Maybe the Mercy Killers? I thought the Doomguard just because if it's a constant battlefield, that's kind of their MO.
It's too lawful for the entropy, probably. Entropy obsessed.
The Doomguard, their plane of influence are the negative quasi-elemental planes, the planes that are constantly falling apart. Dust and salts and what have you.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I just thought they might sell them weapons.
Yeah. I'll start with that then. I'll go ahead and put on my fake private's badge and put on some harmonium colors and head on over.
Okay.
Now, aren't the two factions on the outs right now because of the whole political nonsense that's been going on for the last year?
Tensions are high between the Harmonium and Mercy Killers, yes. But they still have to, at least in appearance, maintain a united front. Otherwise, in their opinion, law and order would break down in Sigil.
Pretty messed up that the person in our party who keeps disguising themselves as a harmonium is our harmonium member and not the anarchist.
Has Riot come to terms with Nath being in the Harmonium, or is she still of the opinion that he's an anarchist?
I think we mentioned a little while ago that Riot has never been under the impression that he actually was an anarchist. He just likes to pretend that she thinks that,
Okay.
kind of to needle him and kind of also to make a point.
Riot's like 3 assholes deep.
It's pretty complicated.
It's even more complicated than I thought.
See, my assumption was that Riot thought that he was actually an independent, but he hasn't realized it yet.
That's kind of more. That's like more to what Riot actually thinks. But then
Yeah,
that's
I'll,
what Riot thinks about literally everybody.
I'll cast my disguise self, go over looking at the same human that Riot disguises me as with seeming, and I'll present myself as that I have some important investigation to do. My higher-ups have sent me to Archon of all places, and they said maybe you guys would be able to give me some information about it.
Okay.
I'm the team spellcaster. I gotta research what I need to bring and what I need to know.
Let's go with intelligence deception.
Sure.
Are you using a magical disguise?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, intelligence deception will work.
My deception is untrained, so that's just the +5.
That's not too bad.
17?
Mhm.
Okay.
Looks like an 18 to me.
Yeah, I don't know how you did that math there. I think you
Oh,
should
yeah,
lower
18.
point of intelligence.
Alright, so just going down the list here. Conjuration is Acheron is a very, very lawful plane. Conjuration spells are the most altered. There are 2 major effects that happen. And you're learning this by someone who's basically saying don't use conjuration on the plane, it's not worth it.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that you conjure to Acheron must obey the letter of any command. Doesn't matter if it's dangerous or suicidal. So all those nice spells that say if you control somebody, if they're bound to you but they won't do something that is dangerous or suicidal, does not apply on Acheron. So if you conjure a creature or you dominate one, or I think even like something like Charm Person would cause them to follow orders to the letter. However, for conjuration specifically to work, you have to, if you're summoning a sentient being, you have to provide another sentient being to trade places with them. And that person is not bound at all once they end up where they're going. So if you summon in a demon from Beator, that demon is bound to your every word, even if your words are fall on your sword. But you've got to send someone back to Beator who's not bound by anything. The victim must either be willing to go, or must be you have to have a position of legitimate authority over them. You could choose to send one of your underlings in the Harmonium, but you could not choose to send Mahogany, because Mahogany does not recognize your authority. And if you can't find anybody, then you're sent instead.
Would coercion work if I had something in a magic circle, for instance?
No, because that would be coercion. It's not legitimate authority. Coercion and duress are not. It's got to be somebody you have like lawful authority over. Divination spells won't work against anybody who is a member of a military organization you're opposed to. Otherwise, there wouldn't be any need for all this conflict. There'd be a lot more espionage and a lot less fighting.
Makes sense.
Spells that raise undead work really, really well. And heat metal spells also work very, very well, because the cubes of Acheron are made out of metal. So it is a legitimate war tactic to create a sea of lava in front of the troops you're trying to fight.
What about rust or anything like that?
Would also be very effective, but rust tends not to be elemental magic. But yeah, rust would work really well, I suppose. If you
So
wanted to
basically, any magic that manipulates metal, would Wall of Iron be stronger?
Give me a second. I will look that up real quick.
Is Wall of Iron a thing?
Yeah, I think so. Isn't it still like a 6th level?
I see Wall of Stone.
Did they drop Wall of Iron? They might have, honestly.
Cast a lot of wall spells. I don't remember seeing a Wall of Iron.
Do you already know the spell Wall of Ice?
No, I don't know the wall. Oh, I know Wall of Ice, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess they don't have Wall of Iron anymore. That's okay, it was a pretty weird spell.
I'll let you have a Wall of Iron spell that works similarly to Wall of Stone, but is 1 level higher. So it would be 6th level, if you wanted to research that.
Nah, the old one was really weird because it was this unpivoted wall that could be pushed over to crush people.
See, that sounds
How do
fun,
I
too.
research things? Can I just call up on the phone and be like, hey...
You usually just go to the source and pay for the information, has been your MO.
No, I mean researching new spells. Like, I don't really do research.
You don't really have the
I
resources
barely
to do
understand
that
magic.
in the way that Nath and Riot do.
Okay, that makes more sense to me.
In Riot, I would
Anything-
only allow to research arcane magic and not cleric spells.
Anything else I should know?
No, that's the long and the short of it. Most spells that deal or heal damage, by intention, work just fine because that's a valid form of warfare. You got goblins launching fireballs and orcs casting healing spells, and repeat that 10 million times, and now you're on Acheron.
All right, thank you. That's very useful.
Riot.
Mm-hmm.
Did you want to retrieve... I mean, considering you're going to have to probably wait a little while for the Relentless to be available.
Yeah.
Do you want to resolve... You're going out to collect bones.
Yeah, bones and possibly other artifacts within the... Because I think all that stuff was in the... Specifically Osmond's domain part of the Karjashi Sea, right? If I remember right, those guys all
I think
died
so.
trying to get into the domain from the plane of water.
Yes.
Yeah.
Artifacts, we're not going to let you collect off camera. If we want to do an artifact collection, I'm going to design a little mini adventure at least.
Okay.
But with an investiture of time, you can go and collect those bones relatively easily.
Okay.
Can we have a quick mini scene where Nath relates his information?
Sure.
Because I have an idea.
So yeah, I'll just meet Mahogany. Well, I meet in the temple afterwards, and I'll just go over the list.
Who is
Just run down.
taking... I'm sorry, but who's taking the physical blueprint of the Relentless that Terrence is providing you?
I feel like Nath would be able to make the most nails of it.
Yeah.
It's like the smartest one in the party.
Okay.
Yep, it's true.
And what is Mahogany's idea?
Alright, so the way conjuration works, you can summon something, but then you get sucked to where they were if you don't have anyone underneath you, right?
Well, yes, I would.
And the way it was explained to me, it's easy to summon something like a fiend because it's very powerful. Why don't we all consider you party leader for the Mo? You summon a bunch of their assholes from that Relentless, and then we all get sucked onto the ship and they're down 5 dudes.
There are so many reasons not to do that.
I like this scene, though, because I would like to hear these reasons.
One, they're down 5 dudes. Have you seen the blueprints for that thing? It is hundreds of feet long, probably teaming with thousands of troops. They're
It's
down
actually
5
over
dudes.
1,000
That
feet
doesn't
long.
hurt them much.
Okay.
2, we're not going there to be violent. We don't care how many troops they have because we're not starting a war with the Relentless.
Oh, Riot, you've said that 50,000 times. Have you ever known us to come out of one of these diplomatic situations not starting a war?
I live in eternal hope.
Glorious.
Another problem with that is I don't actually see conjure. Yeah, there's no conjure demon spell that I'm seeing.
No, but
Oh,
Yeah,
but-
3.
Conjure
That's
Celestial.
the reason
would
none
work
of us know
well.
how to conjure them.
So we could learn a Conjure Fiend version of Conjure Celestial, basically.
Yes, pretty much.
Even if we did know how to conjure them, that spell isn't like. Speaking as someone who can conjure stuff, and you know very well, that spell isn't reliable. You can't use it to conjure a specific thing if you don't know its name, which we don't know any of their names.
It's also not a wizard spell, for what it's worth. I've never seen a arcane version of it. I've only heard rumors of powers granting it.
Really?
That would be
'Cause
true
I've
of
heard a lot
Conjure
of stories
Celestial, but I would
I've heard
rule
a lot
that
of stories of people making pentagrams.
I would rule that Conjure Fiend would be available to warlocks as well, by its nature.
I've never seen any libraries.
Anyway, it won't work. It's a bad idea. Sorry. I like to encourage you, Mahogany, but sometimes you just have bad ideas.
You
I mean,
have
I don't
never
think
liked
it's.
to encourage.
I don't think it's a bad idea. I think that would be a great way to get one person aboard the thing to act as a representative. But I think it's an unworkable one because we don't have the resources necessary.
Liberation.
Hey,
While they're discussing this, what is your outlook on the slaves on the Relentless?
oh, they need to be freed, obviously.
Obviously. So the question is, are you bringing this up to the group for discussion, or are you putting together a plan to find and free them while they're planning a diplomatic mission?
I don't see if we're okay operating under the assumption that they pulled Riot to get her to do something for them. Trying to think about the best way to go about this, because it's like, okay, we're okay. The thing that I'm thinking is like, okay, we do this for you. You get rid of your entire workforce. That's not tenable. You free your entire workforce. No, that's not tenable. So, liberation is kind of at odds with that. He can't really work through what could possibly be the best outcome for this, and he's very upset by it.
Well, something to think about while the rest of them are putting their plans together.
Well, also, while we were putting our plans together, Mahogany knows his party members and isn't very stealthy. So the second he said that we're going to just end up getting in a war, he turned to Liberation and winked.
Can I ask a dumb meta question?
I like those.
Is there anything that... No, never mind.
Okay.
Why don't... So there are people who worship the Relentless, right?
Yes.
And they draw power from it, right?
Yes.
Should we find one of those people and talk to them first?
That's another idea I was thinking
Yeah,
of.
it's
Yeah,
not a bad plan. I like that idea.
Like, I'm kind of with Terrence on this. There's got to be some sort of weird hitch going on.
I don't think that they'll tell us. I don't think we'll get much from them, but anything that we can learn about the Relentless before we try and board it is a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Where are you going to try to find one of these followers?
That's a good question.
That could be an adventure all in and of itself.
I'd imagine that one of these followers would probably be in a place like Acheron, where they're always hiring dudes to thump heads and break shit.
Probably not Sigil.
I like the idea of us having adventures to have adventures to have adventures.
Me too.
That's D&D at its finest right there.
Yep.
At the end of it, we find out the whole thing fell into a pit hole.
So where are you going to look for one of these followers? On Acheron?
I don't know. I don't normally think these things through. There's, I mean, doing it that way is like needle in a haystack. There's got to be a way to
narrow it
figure
down
out.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe
Well,
you can tap
remember
the
what Terrence
locksmith.
said. You're looking for incredibly evil, bloodthirsty warlord mercenaries. I mean, there are places you can go to find people like that.
That's true.
In Sigil.
Yeah, maybe you could tap the locksmith to find out if anybody's involved in that kind of stuff.
That'd be one way of trying it out.
Yeah. Let's do it that way.
Okay, roll a...
We'll start there.
Before you roll, like, give me a short description of how you're bending these efforts. Like, what do you ask your informants to look into and where? Like, are you asking them to look around Sigil for somebody? Are you asking them to go out, like, physically travel to Acheron? Are you tapping contacts inside the Mercy Killers? Like, what's your approach here?
All right, what would my approach be? My approach would be...
What would your
I think that the approach is always first find out what's in Sigil. So whatever Sigil has available to me. And then from there, if that gleaned any information, attempt to narrow it down. Like, all right, where would be the best place to hire a group of people that are being worshipped and grant powers?
Okay. Do you have any influence with the Mercy Killers?
Do I have any influence with the Mercy Killers?
Not the Shattered Temple. I'll give you that one right off the bat.
No. Nobody has any...
Go there.
Nobody in this party has any faction influence with Mercy Killers. Go ahead and roll
I do not.
your locksmith influence.
All right.
Roll your secret influence.
That's an option too. Remember what happened when Liberation did that?
Everything good.
He got everything he wanted.
Yeah.
That is a 26.
26. There are a few members of the Mercy Killers that you're able to locate who, quote-unquote, worship the Relentless. What is
Quote unquote, huh?
Are you skilled in Arcana?
Yes.
That's funny.
It's
Yes.
funny, but are you?
No,
Okay,
I am
so
not skilled in Arcana.
Not trained in Arcana.
I-
Okay.
I have +2.
The way you say that, Brick, it sounds like you're checking off a checkbox, like not skilled in Arcana.
Well, that's one of the things I like about this edition versus previous editions. Either you're skilled or you're not skilled. It's not, you need 8 ranks in Arcana to ride this roller coaster or whatever the hell.
That sounds like a hell of a roller coaster.
I know, right?
So you identify a couple of Mercy Killers. Are you going to run these people down yourselves, or do you want your locksmith associates to do this for you? This is going to piggyback off your 26 that you rolled. I mean, you've already killed.
I mean,
this
I'm
influence roll.
I'm. Since I enjoy bad ideas so much, I want to track these myself because I'm really curious.
Okay.